距离伊朗多近，你知道吗？20几公里，这个连火箭炮都打得到，你很容易被暗杀啦。
整个心理的震撼是非常大的。
All these islands are at range of Iranian artillery, missiles, and drones. If you look at the topographical map here of the coastline, look at it, it's all completely mountainous. Can you imagine trying to land a force on this? You don't have to have a missile to target these islands, and if anybody landed on them, they would just be, I'm afraid, to be massacred. And, we have to ask, what will Russia do? Would they intervene if a nuclear attack is launched against Iran? If we go ahead with this ground attack, it's going to result in a catastrophe. So where are the possible sites of a U.S. ground invasion of Iran? They've heard about Karg Island. That's where Iran offloads almost all of its oil into the Persian Gulf. And the U.S. has hit the military bases there, but they haven't targeted the oil refineries. You can see that up there, the red circle. And we were looking at the Strait of Hormuz a minute ago with Larak Island, Queso Island. And there's also a port city called Chabahar that's been talked about as a place where the Marines might try to land. And there's also some small islands that Ambassador Freeman's brought this up a couple times. I greatly respect him. So they're called the Lesser Tomb Islands, I believe, and they're in the center here. So I'm not sure what value they would be, but all these islands are in range of Iranian artillery, missiles, and drones. If you look at the topographical map here of the coastline, look at it, it's all completely mountainous. Can you imagine trying to land a force on this, and you'd be looking up at the cliffs, and all these cliffs oversee these islands? I mean, modern artillery can go many miles. You don't have to have a missile to target these islands, and if anybody landed on them, they would just be, I'm afraid, to be massacred. The U.S. has twice attacked the Iranian nuclear power plant at Bushehr. Now, this is a commercial nuclear power plant, unlike the one at Dimona that Israel has. This one has this has probably at least 10 times, maybe 100 times more nuclear material. It's got 71 tons of fissile material in the reactor, and it also has 210 tons of highly radioactive uranium fuel rods. They call it spent fuel. And these spent fuel pools have some of the highest concentrations of radioactivity on the planet. After the U.S. attacked the Iranian reactor, Iranian hypersonic missiles retaliated. They struck right next to the Israel's Dimona reactor.
Whoa! 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 Papa!
They didn't strike the reactor itself, right? But they could. They have the capability. They're very highly accurate. This is a warning, essentially.
So they made sure they didn't hit it. Yeah.
Right.
But they were right next to it.
Right. That they could hit it if they want to. So a ballistic missile will wreck that. So what will the U.S. and Israel do if they face a huge defeat by Iran? If we land troops there, they get massacred, or I think to prevent a catastrophic defeat, the U.S. or Israel may choose to use nuclear weapons against Iran. I mean, they're both nuclear powers. Israel has probably 300 or 400 nuclear weapons. They have Tomahawk missiles with nuclear warheads on 5 diesel submarines. They have, we have to ask, what will Russia do? Would they intervene if a nuclear attack is launched against Iran? Because Iran's right on the Russian border. And worst of all, the most likely possibility is if Israel used nuclear weapons on Iran, Iran will build and use nuclear weapons against Israel. And Dr. Theodore Postel has done some really good presentations on this. And I used some of his slides. He gave me permission to. He created one that shows 3 Iranian atomic bombs. They can produce about 9 to 10 of these 15 kiloton weapons with the highly enriched uranium that we know they have. And this would kill 300 to 400,000 people. Now, this diagram shows a nuclear fireball at the instant of detonation. The fireballs are as hot. They're like a piece of the sun coming to the earth. And the surface of the fireball is hotter than the surface of the sun. It's much hotter than conventional explosives. This is a picture from Hiroshima. There was someone that was beneath the fireball there they were vaporized. They just left a shadow on the sidewalk. This image is a few seconds after the detonation. It shows mushroom clouds rising, and the solar heat from these fireballs will create a huge nuclear firestorm. It ignites innumerable fires all around, and that the circle there, it's like 30 square kilometers. And this firestorm is deadly to anything that's alive there. It creates a firestorm where within tens of minutes, the air temperatures in the fire zone rises above the boiling point of water. The updrafts are hundreds of miles an hour, and they create winds coming into the fire zone that are powerful enough to uproot trees like 3 feet in diameter. They're just enormous. So no one in this fire zone would survive. And this would be the same thing in Iran as it would be in Israel. But
and I think it's important to say here that Professor Postel says that from what we know about Iran and how much enriched uranium they have, we must suppose that they are able to put that into action within a couple of weeks. I mean, that was his assessment already last year. It's just, it would be irresponsible to assume that they do not have already a couple of nuclear warheads. That was his argument.
Well, that's right. He believes 9 or 10. They had about 430 kilograms of 60% highly enriched uranium, and that's enough. It only takes several days to go from a 60% to 90% enrichment, which is weapons grade. And these fission bombs are not particularly difficult to produce. It doesn't. They don't have to test them to know they will work. Iran is completely capable of creating these warheads. So this image shows where the fire zone would be, and everything combustible in zone will burn in about 6 to 10 hours. This is an image of Hiroshima a few months after the atomic bomb there destroyed the city. The U.S. actually created firestorms in Germany and Japan during World War II with conventional bombing, with thousands of bombers creating enormous fires. This is a picture of Hamburg afterwards that shows abandoned fire trucks in the street. It's so hot in the city there that you wouldn't be able to take a tracked vehicle in for days. Even the asphalt, everything is so hot that you can't enter it. After the bomb, of course, there's going to be radioactive fallout. In Hiroshima, there was an area of black rain, and Dr. Postel believes that there would be a similar phenomena here in Tel Aviv. That's highly radioactive. So, probably 100,000 people died from the fallout from that in Japan. And radiation is not a good way to die from acute radiation exposure. So I believe that any further escalation of this war will lead to disaster for everyone. It's an all-out war will result if the U.S. attacks Iranian energy infrastructure or sends troops into Iran. The U.S. will consider using nuclear weapons to forestall a massive defeat in the Persian Gulf. I think Trump would. I mean, if he's faced with U.S. troops being slaughtered and ships being sunk, do you think he'll just retreat? I don't believe that's Trump's style. And if Israel's cities are being blasted to bits by Iranian missiles, at some point, I believe they call it the Samson option. I believe Samson, pulled down the temple on him and destroyed everyone with him. The Philistines. If the energy infrastructure and desalination plants in Israel and the Gulf states are destroyed, they'll make it uninhabitable. And as I said, I believe Israel is likely to attack Iran with nuclear weapons if Israel decides its existence is at stake. So stop the war now. That's why I say if there's someone sane that can intervene in this process and convince Trump not to send the troops into Iran, don't attack. If we go ahead with this ground attack, it's going to result in a catastrophe. So.